There are certain WWE wrestlers who almost changed the course of WWE history. These select wrestlers were extremely close to being part of a major storyline which would have had them completely alter their career trajectory. Unfortunately, the plans to include them in a monumental storyline were scrapped, and the wrestlers themselves and fans always look back and ask, what if? Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 wrestlers that almost changed WWE history. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out Wrestlelamia.co.uk and our wrestling channel, Incredible. Number 10. Taz. One of the major angles of the Attitude Era saw Stone Cold Steve Austin get run down by a car at the 1999 Survivor Series. It would later transpire that Rikishi was the man behind the vehicle and that Triple H was the mastermind. However, that wasn't always the plan. At one stage, Taz was going to be revealed as a man that ran down WWE's top star. Former WWE writer Brian Gerwitz would discuss these scrap plans during an appearance on the Ariel Helwani show. He stated, "I remember at one point Vince looked at me and was like, Taz. At one point it was going to be Taz. Okay, great, let's make it Taz. And for whatever reason, the next week it's someone different. I wouldn't call that necessarily a success. Rikishi is a Hall of Fame performer, but he's likable and a natural babyface, and people want to like him. Sometimes you just don't know until you try." Then ultimately it was Rikishi, but Triple H was behind it all along, and it went back to the natural order of things. Number 9. Muhammad Hassan. In the summer of 2005, Muhammad Hassan was well on his way to becoming the top heel in WWE. Whilst his gimmick was controversial in nature, Hassan had a ton of heat with fans, and WWE truly had the next big wrestling villain on their hands. Sadly, real-life events as well as a tasteless angle derailed Hassan's push. WWE decided to air a controversial segment on the day of the 7/7 London bombings. The segment saw Hassan began to prey on the ramp, and this summoned 5 masked men, and they were armed with clubs and piano wire, and they began to choke out The Undertaker. The masked men then lifted Daivari above their heads and carried him away. Although WWE defended this segment, sponsors as well as SmackDown's TV network UPN weren't very pleased. Due to the pressure from UPN, WWE decided to drop the Hassan character altogether and write him off television. Now, Hassan was actually initially booked to win the world title in a match against Batista at SummerSlam, and actually due to him being taken off television, this never happened. Now, it would have been interesting to see how this reign would have gone and how the WWE would have presented Hassan as the top heel in the company. Number 8. Ryback. Back in 2012, Ryback had somehow obtained huge popularity with the fans. Ryback was super over, and WWE decided to push him into the main event picture. Ryback would collide with WWE Champion CM Punk at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and there were calls internally for WWE to make Ryback the new champion. These internal calls were based on the fact that Ryback's popularity could be seriously damaged with a loss. WWE eventually decided that Ryback wasn't going to win the title, but he was going to stick around the main event scene. This consequently derailed Ryback's momentum, as he was never the same following his loss to Punk inside a Satan structure. Number 7. Christopher Daniels. Most fans know Christopher Daniels for his acclaimed work both in TNA and AEW. However, Daniels was almost a key element in one of WWE's most infamous storylines. Back in 1999, a mysterious higher power figure was ordering The Undertaker to commit heinous acts, and this mysterious being was eventually revealed to be Vince McMahon. However, this initial plan for the higher power character would see Daniels being revealed as the mastermind behind the entire thing. Now, the reason that Daniels' involvement was scrapped was because Mr. McMahon believed that Daniels was too small and wouldn't be taken seriously in the role. Number 6. Kofi Kingston. WrestleMania 35 featured Kofi Kingston finally capturing the WWE title. Although this was a brilliant moment for Kingston and his fans, Kingston almost won the big one 9 years prior. At the start of 2010, Kingston was starting to build up a genuine connection with the fans, and WWE management saw the potential in him. Kingston was a tremendous in-ring talent, and the younger members of the WWE audience were really taking to his work. The plan was for Kingston to win the Money in the Bank at WrestleMania 26 and eventually win the title or world title. Sadly, issues with Randy Orton derailed these plans completely, and Kingston was moved down the card. He was still involved in the Money in the Bank ladder match, but the match would be awarded to Jack Swagger in one of the most disappointing match outcomes of all time. Number 5. Mustafa Ali. Speaking of the Money in the Bank ladder match, in 2019 plans were put in place for Mustafa Ali to become Mr. Money in the Bank. This would have been a fantastic outcome as Ali had a ton of potential as a top guy in the company. However, literally moments before Ali was about to make his entrance, he was told directly by Vince McMahon that he wasn't going to win the match. The match would instead be won by Brock Lesnar. It wasn't even announced for it. Ali would discuss this during an interview with Talk Sport and stated,
"I'm winning it, man, this is my moment. This is everything I've been working for. I can't believe it. This is awesome." And then the match is about to start. The entrance will start. And I may be wrong about this, but maybe Baron Corbin's making his entrance. And I'm soon to be making my entrance. And then that's when I'm go see the boss real quick. You want? Yeah. This is what I want. Grab the briefcase, shock, and you're frozen. This is what I want. And you have to realize right before you go out to the curtain is not the time to kind of argue and
sure.
You're getting a direct order about what is to be expected of you. And I know some people say like, well, why didn't you just grab the briefcase? I said, well, I was more concerned with grabbing my check that week, So I grabbed my check that week. At the end of the day, it's not my show. The guy who owns this, who writes the show, who decides what's going to happen, Gabe told me specific instructions, and I said, okay, not a problem, boss. And I went out there and did exactly what I was asked to do.
Number 4, Mr. Kennedy. WWE were adamant in making Mr. Kennedy a top star in the company, and one of the ways they were going to do this was by having it be revealed that Kennedy was Vince McMahon's illegitimate child. This would have propelled Kennedy to the next level, and a world title win was even rumored. However, as WWE were getting ready to execute the reveal, Kennedy failed a drug test and was suspended. This forced WWE to cancel Kennedy's push, and the storyline was reworked. WWE rather randomly yet hilariously decided that Hornswoggle would be revealed to be McMahon's illegitimate son. Fans will always look back and wonder just how far Kennedy would have reached in WWE if the storyline played out as originally intended. Number 3, Chris Hero and Big E. When the concept of the Shield stable was being discussed, one of the names that CM Punk wanted in the stable was Chris Hero. Punk and Hero had a great relationship and he felt like he would be a good fit alongside Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. Vince McMahon would eventually decide on Roman Reigns being in the faction, but this was a smart move as Reigns would go on to become the face of WWE, which may have never happened if Reigns was never an original member of the popular group. There were also discussions in relation to having the Shield debut with 4 members. Reigns, Rollins and Ambrose would be joined by Big E. This would have been vastly different, but the WWE made the call to debut Big E alongside Dolph Ziggler. This was the best move for Big E as he made a very successful career on his own merit, and it's unknown just how he would have done if he was paired with the Shield back in 2012. Number 2, Mark Gingerek. Triple H and Ric Flair back in 2002 had the idea of forming a stable similar to the iconic 4 Horsemen. The Game and Flair looked towards putting Randy Orton and Batista in the group, but McMahon wanted Mark Gingerek in the group instead of Batista. McMahon believed that Gingerek had a ton of potential and he ordered promo videos to be shot involving Gingerek alongside the group. Following the promo shoot, Triple H went to McMahon directly and told him that the stable wasn't going to work with Gingerek involved. Gingerek would have been replaced by Batista and he would have been moved down the card, but it would have been nothing compared if he remained part of the beloved faction. And number 1, Mark Henry. A WWE Hall of Famer, Mark Henry had a great career that included a world title win, but his career was almost even better. In 2006, WWE made plans for Henry to be the one to end The Undertaker's WrestleMania win streak. This would even be agreed upon by the dead man himself, but as WrestleMania got closer, Vince McMahon began to get cold feet. Eventually, McMahon cancelled the idea. This was a correct move as Henry wasn't the right guy. His in-ring work wasn't the best and he simply wasn't ready for a win of this nature. Bruce Pritchard discussed these cancelled plans on his Something to Wrestle podcast, saying, "Vince, as we got closer to it, got cold feet, I guess, and just realized that maybe Mark wasn't ready at the time for it. And I don't know that there was a real solid plan on the other side either to make it work. Paul Heyman hated it. I don't know anybody that was like, woohoo, let's go do this, other than Vince." But there you have it, folks, 10 wrestlers that almost changed WWE history. Be sure to leave your comments down below and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.